Hi, hello everybody. So one thing that I know a lot of people are wondering is how good is Gwyn? As a limited unit, she is set aside from the other mythic units that are available in the standard banner as somebody who is going to be only available for a few weeks at a time before she leaves and makes room for the next limited unit. And the other thing is that you're only able to get her using the Bon Voyage Charm limited editions and using Lumia leaves. So your resources in pulling a limited unit are less than that you would gain naturally for a standard banner unit. So investing in a limited unit such as Gwyn can be a much higher threshold than necessarily for the standard banner, especially because these units right here will always be here and they will never leave. We are always going to have the opportunities to get Tantu, to get Yolder, and to get Ningfei. So prioritizing a limited unit over these guys right here does seem like a correct play. However, what's more important than if a character is limited or available at all times is their kits. And what I'm here to answer the question of is how well Gwyn's kit holds up when compared to the other units we have on the roster. As we can see here, Gwyn is going to be using two impact weapons, the sidearm and the shotgun. Now, the weapons that she has available, much like every single character in the game, are going to be a bit more limited because it is the very start. They don't have as many activities and they don't have as many weapons to supply us with. Obviously, as time passes in the future, we'll gain access to more and more guns, so this will be a problem that occurs less and less as we move forward. However, there are some particular things about Gwyn's weapon selection that could pose some potential issues, one of which is her exotic selections. She has access to 3 different exotic weapons: Concerto, the Octant Right Dispenser, and the Chaperone. Now, going from the beta into the launch of the game, they actually gave her a small buff in the fact that Concerto is now available in the exotic loot pool for the Strikes playlist, meaning that you will be able to obtain this much easier, and you will also be able to obtain copies of it easier as well. The Octant's Right Dispenser is still one of the 3 raid weapons, though the Chaperone is in the Adventure loot pool, which you get from shifting gates or from focusing the engram. So this one right here will be a lot more difficult to obtain in the same way as the Octant's Right Dispenser. So when it comes to Gwyn, the easiest weapon that you have available to you is going to be Concerto, and thankfully Concerto is a very good option for an exotic primary. Its main trait is Cadenza, which will give you a stacking damage bonus up to 80% that will never go away until you die or until you swap weapons. However, when you swap weapons, it will then load 2 Cadenza stacks onto the next weapon, giving the mythic weapon you swap to a 40% damage buff and fully reloads it. So if you have 4 Cadenza stacks, you can swap to your shotgun, empty out its entire magazine, swap back to Concerto, and then immediately swap back to your shotgun to then unload another full magazine of rounds that are all buffed by 40% damage increase. However, you would then have to stack up the Concerto again, but if you're farming some ads, it won't be that difficult. So the primary loadout that you're probably going to be having on Gwyn eventually is going to be Concerto and the Eternal Retribution shotgun that you will get from the raid and also from the normal gauntlet activities. And we can see here that this weapon has a decent perk selection. This one right here, Conjugation, will give you an unconditional damage bonus so long as you're using it on Gwyn, but it might not be as good if you want to share this kind of weapon on multiple units. You can also use Line Formation, which will allow you to dump the magazine even faster, and makes it so that it'll also gain an effect similar to Triple Tap, except for on a shotgun, and will also pull from reserves rather than generating the ammo from thin air. Additionally, it will combo very well with the Karmic Reward perk right here, which details that hitting the same target 2 times in a row grants the rest of the magazine a 60% damage bonus until the weapon is reloaded. And it will also give Rate of Fire. So this will essentially turn it into some kind of pseudo-exotic weapon where so long as you are hitting the same target over and over again, you're going to rapidly increase your rate of fire and keep loading more magazines. And then you can swap back to Concerto, swap back to this gun, and you can just dump the magazine all again with those damage buffed rounds. Your other options include the IST2 Nitakis, which will be an arc weapon and largely won't be as good on Gwyn because Gwyn's kit will definitely benefit from you running a mono elemental build. And that is one particular thing about her that might cause some issues in terms of her total amount of use cases. Another weapon that you could use on Gwyn if you get it is the Chaperone. You could run a Chaperone plus a normal sidearm. It may make it so that she is less consistent overall with damage, but it might improve your boss DPS if you get it to the maximum catalyst. Because currently the only way to proc Roadborne is with a precision kill. Getting the catalyst will make it so that it'll automatically reload with a precision kill. It'll give it more precision damage, but you have to fully upgrade it in order to get the Roadborne. So this would be a very, very high investment weapon just to make it work in DPS scenarios. So with that, it might not be the best choice for you. However, that's enough about her weapons. How do they interact with her kit? Gwyn's primary ability is the Void Dance, which will cause you to spin in a circle with her scythe and deal damage to all enemies nearby. It will additionally launch all of the Void Spirits to then deal additional damage, homing in on targets. She will gain Void Spirits whenever she defeats a combatant or when she deals damage with her sidearm or shotgun, and she will gain it at a significantly faster rate with her shotgun. Her whole playstyle is going to be generating those Void Spirits, collecting them, and then unleashing a high power Void Dance to burst down a target, such as a major or a large group of ads, which will then allow her to collect more Void Spirits from their corpses. Additionally, casting Void Assault, her movement ability when she teleports, will inflict enemies that are hit by it with a small portion of damage and confine them, preventing them from moving and therefore dodging the attacks from her weapons and abilities. With her trait 2, casting that ability will cause all the Void Spirits nearby to magnetize and instantly pick up, allowing her to cast a Void Dance very easily after it and combo into that. The third trait will cause 50% of the excess healing from Void Spirits and Void Dance to be converted into an Overshield. So as somebody who is going to be going into close range very, very often with her toolkit, having that extra healing and overshield will benefit her greatly. Her super is very, very simple. It'll automatically give her 6 Void Souls, and any Void Souls that she generates while defeating enemies with her super will automatically appear on her. It's a very simple roaming super style in this game where she'll deal some extra damage but maybe won't deal as much damage as with a weapon combo. Now, her weapon mastery, which is oftentimes one of the most important parts of a character's kit, Gwyn will gain penetrating shot whenever she casts an ability, and it will cause her weapon hits to deal a multiplicative instance of damage, going all the way up to 40%. Additionally, the level 4 will make it so that weapon hits will extend its duration by a second, up to 3 seconds. So a combo would be to teleport into the enemy, unload some rounds onto them, collect the Void Souls, then do the Void Dance, and then continue to lay into other enemies, and essentially just keep rotating her abilities and her weapon fire, and that's why Concerto is often the weapon that people would run on her because of how consistent it is. So, when it comes to Gwyn, she is a very, very consistent damage dealer. However, will struggle a bit more when it comes to boss damage scenarios, in a similar way to how Wolf translates to those. However, when it comes to any sort of activity where you're going to be defeating many tanky enemies over and over again, but maybe not one singular tanky enemy, Gwyn will excel. So in strike scenarios, in a lot of the different end games that you'll be going through, she will be an excellent pick. Additionally, because she is a limited unit, her toolkits will be featured in these end games, and it will be a lot easier to clear with her compared to some other units potentially, due to that effect, at least through the first month or two. So if that is a reason why you would want her, then you may be interested in pulling her. However, when it comes to the overall meta, Gwyn does not offer very much compared to other mythic units available. Because she's limited to only 2 different damage types, that means she will only be adept at summoning one of the 4 Shinkas. And because her kit very much favors a mono element playstyle, Gwyn won't have as much freedom when it comes to fighting against enemies that have different shields. Comparing her to a standard banner unit like Yolder has a lot more to offer compared to Gwyn in a lot more scenarios. She may not excel in the very same way ways that Gwyn might, being very, very consistent damage and very good at doing consistent damage, while also self-healing and self-buffing, Yolder offers several other advantages. For one, Yolder has 2 different weapon types, meaning that she can be adept at stunning 2 different Shinka types, and what's more than that, the rapid fire Shinkas and the impact Shinkas were the 2 most difficult Shinkas to deal with in the beta. Specifically, the rapid fire ones were very, very difficult compared to the other Shinkas that we had to fight. And what's more than that, the weapon options that she has specifically are very, very friendly to people who may not be as lucky or may not have as many resources, because the Huckleberry, as you may know, is one of the featured weapons for the login bonus. That means every single player will have the option to pick up Huckleberry. So that is already one exotic option that would be good for Yolder. Alternatively, she can run Risk Runner to help with her ad clear a bit more, because Yolder has a bit more freedom in the weapons that she chooses. Additionally, the Partridge Sky will also be featured in an event where you can get it for free. And the Partridge Sky is a very, very consistent damage dealing weapon. In terms of damage per second, it's on par or better than the Satya Elixir grenade launcher, and it will be very, very ammo efficient because it is a sword. Beyond that, she also has some other advantages, like giving her team support with her bubble super, protecting them, and she gets a significantly higher weapon damage multiplier than Gwyn does at a maximum of 90% with no talents. Later on in her tree, she will be given a talent which will make her maximum weapon mult scale all the way up to 117%. And unlike Gwyn, getting multiple talents on Yolder will be a lot more viable for players because Yolder will be a permanent unit. In the short term, if you have that many resources to invest like a whale, it could be easier to max out Gwyn than Yolder, but since most players aren't whales, they will have a significantly higher chance of getting 1 or more duplicates of Yolder compared to Gwyn, meaning that even if Gwyn can edge out Yolder in certain cases, this fact about Yolder herself will allow her to edge out Gwyn in those cases as well, so long as you are able to obtain her multiple times. But of course, this isn't to say that Gwyn is bad. She is still an excellent... She is still an...
Love is nothing but a false pretense. Those who think they have fallen in love are all fools.
She's...
Gwyn, when did you show up?
Can you shut up, Crother?
Nothing.
Which isn't to say that Gwyn is bad. She is still an excellent unit, especially because one of the main reasons why you'd want to pull Gwyn is that she is extremely easy to play. If you are playing Gwyn at a very casual level, you'll likely be playing her almost as well as somebody who may be sweating with Gwyn, so long as you are following those same simple combos, in which case Gwyn might be the best character for you if you are looking for a very casual experience like that, especially because early on she will be featured on a lot of the endgames with their specific buffs and bonuses. However, if you aren't really interested in Gwyn at all, you do not need to feel pressured in order to pull her right now or in the future. So if you would rather get a different unit that is yet to be seen, you can skip her with a sound mind. That's all I really have to say here. Let me know your reasons for pulling or for skipping Gwyn in the comments below. And if you're enjoying my coverage of Destiny Rising and would like to see more guides and breakdowns of all this information and everything about this game in the future, be sure to subscribe in order to not miss a video. And I also have a Discord server in the description if you would like to talk to me more directly. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you all next time.